Dave Gorman, and welcome to this, our last episode of Modern Life is Goodish for this series. Now, I've learned a lot about human nature during the making of the previous 35 episodes, which is why I think it's going to be interesting on the day this show is first broadcast to see quite how many people will get in touch before even the end of this sentence to tell me that I'm not wearing a checked shirt. It just so happens... Just because I may have worn a checked shirt in every other episode, and I have. It's not like it's a costume, is it? It's just a shirt, isn't it? You know, obviously we should update this, really, shouldn't we? We've got the space there for the final show of the series. We should just... There it is, yeah. I mean, it's still actually very much the same. It's just a shirt. It's not like watching an episode of Rainbow and discovering that today Bungle isn't dressed as Bungle, is it? It's not like... Suddenly, you're just watching a naked man having very basic concepts of life explained to him by Jeffrey. It's not like that at all, is it? No. Anyway, it will be interesting to see how many people have pointed it out to me, and I suspect they will, because one thing I've learned over these past 5 years is if you appear on TV, people will scrutinise what you're wearing. For example, take a look at this. This is a tweet from a few years ago. At Dave Gorman, watching you on Sunday Brunch. Okay, I was on Sunday Brunch promoting the start of Series 2. Watching you on Sunday Brunch, seen that shirt before. Series 1, Episode 3. Hashtag caught you. Hashtag cheap Gorman. Hashtag same shirt. Hashtag cheapskate. And they're right, I was wearing the same shirt. Here I am in Series 1, Episode 3. I don't know if you remember, it was a very comb-heavy show, that one. A lot of comb-related material, wasn't there? Yeah. What do you do with the combs you don't want? Yeah. And here I am on Sunday Brunch, sitting next to the one man who wants all the combs and the one man who doesn't want any at all. And yes, my correspondent has correctly identified that I've worn that shirt before. But it's the idea that I've somehow been caught out, or that this makes me cheap, that I find baffling. Because as well as owning that shirt, I also own a magic box. It looks like this. It allows me to wear all of my clothes on multiple occasions. Are we supposed to assume that the person who wrote this burns their outfit at the end of every day, ready to start again the next day with a whole new, never-before-worn outfit? Nobody does that. You all wear clothes twice, don't you? In fact, I know you lot do, because you were all here last week, and... I'm pretty sure you're all wearing exactly the same clothes. Now, I think... They'll work it out, Now, I think this tweet is supposed to be some light, banterful dig at me. But some people really do seem to care, don't they? The fashion police are out there monitoring what other people wear. Well, it's obviously not a real police force, is it? Nobody ever talks about a fashion constable, do they? That would be a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, there aren't fashion constables who are hoping to make fashion sergeant one day, are there? There aren't pairs of hard-bitten fashion detectives being forced to hand in their fashion police badges by world-weary fashion police commissioners. They don't exist. Bit of a tongue twister, that. I don't think I've ever repeated the word fashion quite so much as that, actually. I feel like some kind of expert fashion repeater. He said, as if expert fashion repeater was a thing. Of course, anyway, back to the show, sorry. As with so many things in life, it seems there's one rule for me and another rule for the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton. You see, when I wear a shirt twice, I get called cheap. But if Kate Middleton does it, she's thrifty, apparently. Yeah. Oh, thrifty Kate strikes again, yeah? Pregnant Duchess wears designer dress for the 3rd time. And here are the photos of her wearing the same dress. And this, apparently, is Kate being thrifty. Because, as the Daily Mail story goes on to point out, Kate is known for her sensitivity to the economic climate. Yeah. That dress cost £2,000. Wearing a £2,000 dress 3 times is not being sensitive to the economic climate. That's 666 quid a pop, for crying out loud. And do you know what else it isn't? Recycling. Often recycling her expensive gowns. Wearing a dress more than once isn't recycling. There is a phrase for it. It's called owning a dress. It's what you're supposed to do with a dress, right? I've got a pair of underpants, right? I wore these for 15 years, and they are now a duster. That's recycling. You might think that the Mail would be the right place to look for this sort of coverage. But I think the news organisation most obsessed with Kate Middleton's recycling of outfits is actually E! Entertainment News. It's a TV channel. You'll know if you've seen it. You know how on Dave, for example, if you look at the top left-hand corner of your screen, you should be able to see the name of the channel, Dave. Well, on E! Entertainment News, they put it bottom right-hand corner down here, and they just pay a presenter's assistant to physically hold it on a card next to him. They do. They do. Look, you've probably seen it. You'll have noticed. There it is. Now, if you're familiar with the channel, you probably think its focus is much more on American celebrities, and it kind of is. But if you search on their website for Kate Middleton Recycles, you will find 7,562 results. I think May the 4th, 2016 must have been a very special day for them because she did it twice that day. In the morning, she opened a children's play area at Hampton Court Palace and she'd worn that outfit before. Then later on, she went to an exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery and guess what? Yeah, she'd worn that dress before also. Imagine the excitement at E! News Towers when they got to publish the headline, Kate Middleton recycles 2 outfits in one day. It's a twofer. Oh, absolutely. Like an expert fashion repeater. It turns out it is a thing. Turns out it is a thing. Who would have thought it? Turns out. Now, as well as publishing this story about her wearing 2 repeat outfits in one day, they also, earlier in that day, published this story about her repeating the first outfit earlier the same day. Now, because these 2 stories were published on the same day, they show us quite how quickly they turn this stuff around. Well, look, she was opening this children's play area about, well, let's have a look, at about 11:20. 11:20. And they were publishing their story about it less than 3 hours later at 1 minute past 2. And she was turning up at the National Portrait Gallery at, about 6:15. And they published their story again less than 3 hours later at 5 minutes past 9. In less than 3 hours, they can get the photos, look at every other photo there has ever been of her, identify the occasions on which an outfit has been worn before, identify every accessory, write and then publish a story about exactly when she wore it before and exactly what is different about the way she's wearing it now. It is possible for these people. I can't believe they do this. They can venerate this woman for wearing clothes twice, something which everyone on Earth does. Here's just a random sampling of stories from the E! website, OK? Let's have a look at a few sample quotes. Re-wearing old dresses is just Kate's thing. Heck, it's one of the reasons her fans adore her. Since getting hitched to William, Kate's wardrobe has been the object of intense scrutiny. Say the people who publish stories about everything she wears within 3 hours of her wearing it. By fashion constables. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. This is not the first time Middleton has recycled an outfit, which makes her even more lovable, because it's a reminder that she's really just like us, except she has the key to the crown jewels. My God! Oh, the royal family really are different, aren't they? Did any of you lot know that William has to keep his tackle under lock and key? I had no idea. Her position is the UK has fallen on hard times, so it's inappropriate to frolic in new high fashion for every single outfit. God, we just love this woman. And yet, I think they're finding this situation tricky at E! Towers, because the more Kate recycles her clothes, the more they have to recycle their articles about her recycling her clothes. I think their tolerance for all of this is becoming a little stretched. There are clues in the coverage. For example, this. Is it time for Kate Middleton to stop recycling clothes? At the end of the day, she is royalty. Why not take advantage? Well, I'll tell you why not, E. According to you last week, it was something to do with being concerned about the economic climate. But if you're bored of saying it, I suppose we should all move on. I've got myself a bit worked up here. So I guess we should have ourselves a little break. When we come back, I'll be exploring where else there is one rule for me and another for Kate Middleton by killing and cooking a swan. However, before we go to break, as it's the last show, I thought I'd let you in on a little secret. People often ask me, what happens here in the venue during the breaks? And, well, as this lovely crowd will confirm, what we normally do is we have a bit of a sing-along, don't we? Yeah? Yeah, of course we do. Mr. Piano, please. Roll out the barrel. We'll have a barrel of fun. See you after the break. Roll out the barrel. Hey! Hey, hey, hey! If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, and you really want to show it. And it's at this point, ladies and gentlemen, that this song starts to boil my piss. What you've got here is a song that contains small print that's no use to you because it doesn't arrive until it's too late, does it? What you've got there is you get your first instruction. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And you, being both happy and aware of said fact, clap your hands obediently. You then get the same instruction again, which you obey once more. Then, and only then, does the song reveal that these clauses only apply to those people who really want to show it. Anyone out there who is quite reasonably happy and knows it, but who doesn't really want to show it, has been sold a pup by this song, haven't they? It's outrageous. The other clause that annoys me in this song is the repeated use of the "and you know it" clause. Surely, if the author of these words thinks this clause is necessary, the implication is that the author of this piece can imagine a world in which you are happy but do not know it. I don't know how that works myself. I've always found my emotional well-being is very much connected to my awareness of my emotional well-being. I mean, if this is a graph of your happiness, if this is the graph where the vertical axis represents happiness, OK? So that if you're up there, that means you're having a wonderful time, you're as happy as Larry, life is hunky-dory. But if you're down there, that means you're in the doldrums, you're having a bad day, times are tough. But on the horizontal axis, on this graph, we are measuring awareness, ladies and gentlemen. So that if you're over here, that means you are 100% cognizant of exactly what is going on inside your emotional soul, and over there, you are probably in a coma. Now, if that is the graph, then I am 100% fine with this half of things. Up here, this represents being happy and knowing it. Hopefully that's where we all are right now. Whereas down here, well, we all know what it's like, don't we? We've all had our dark days, haven't we? We all know what that feels like. What the hell is that? Unhappy and completely oblivious to the fact. Sort of sounds all right when you put it like that, doesn't it? Ignorance is supposed to be bliss, after all. I'll tell you what, you'd bloody resent whoever it is who brings it to your attention, wouldn't you? I thought I was having a perfectly satisfactory day until you came along and pointed out that I'm a miserable bastard. Thank you very much. That's even bloody weirder, isn't it? Happy, but unaware of the fact. How does that work? There's only one circumstance I can imagine in which someone is happy but does not know that they are happy. And that circumstance involves somebody having successfully completed an audition for a pantomime, but not yet having been told which of the available 7 roles they will be fulfilling. Now, if you ask me, somebody needs to do an update of that song. And I don't think that Pharrell Williams is the man. Yeah, I don't. There I am. I've rolled out the Pharrell. I don't think he is the man. Seriously, what is the Pharrell Williams song, Happy, if not an update on If You're Happy and You Know It, Clap Your Hands? There are 4 key lines to the chorus of that song. I will talk you through them all, but instead of doing them in order, let's deal with lines 2 and 4 first. Now, it's a very good video, and the amount of happiness that's on display can be quite distracting. So to make sure we're all taking in the words, I'm going to bring all the lyrics up on the screen as we go. So, first cab off the rank.
Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth.
If happiness is the truth, surely that's just another way of saying if you are happy. I mean, if happiness is your truth, then it's something that you know, isn't it? Surely this is just another way of saying if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. I mean, literally, that's what it means, isn't it?
Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
You don't need me to be a lawyer on this one, do you? We can all see clearly what that means. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. It's another way of saying, if you really want to show it, clap your hands. Which actually, none of the people in that clip wanted to do. Half of the chorus is lyrically just an updated version of If You're Happy and You Know It. So what about the other half of the chorus? Well, it starts with this.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
This is the point where this song starts to boil my piss. I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, but your metaphor eludes me here. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Look, this is a room with a roof. And here it is without a roof. And I don't feel like it got any happier. I don't feel like that's what happened there. In the absence of anything else to connect this metaphor to, I'm forced to conclude that Pharrell Williams has finally found a definition for these people. That must be it. Unhappy, completely unaware of it. I don't know, I just feel like a room without a roof. I do. Without anyone noticing, Pharrell has instantly doubled the clap-along reach with his version of the song. The traditional version was only ever going for the people who were happy and knew it. But for Pharrell Williams, the unhappy and didn't know it people are now on board too. The crafty little bugger, isn't he? But you know what? He goes further.
Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you.
I mean, he's not even asking, are you happy? This just means, do you know what the word happiness means? And that's basically everyone, isn't it? He's closed all of the loopholes. That's just not on, is it? That's just not on. You've got to allow the non-clappers an out, in my opinion. Now, as there's a last day of term vibe, I thought I'd answer another question that is frequently asked. People often ask me, why do you always acknowledge the breaks? Other shows on Dave don't always say we're going to a break. There's an easy answer for that. You see, of all the shows on Dave, this is one of the only ones that knows it's on Dave. Most of their other shows, they don't know about that. They were made for smaller, less commercial channels like BBC Two or BBC One. QI was made for a channel without breaks. There's no moment in an old episode of QI where Stephen Fry will throw to a break, which means that somebody at Dave has the job of watching old QIs with their finger on the pause button, just waiting for Stephen Fry to draw breath. Sometimes they just have to put a break in the middle of a sentence. I was watching an old QI on Dave a little while ago. At one point, Stephen Fry said, "Our next question concerns Easter break." Right there. 3 minutes later, you come back to find Stephen Fry saying, "Lee wins." 3 minutes, that's a hell of a lot to hold up there for 3 minutes, isn't it? I was watching an old episode of Top Gear on Dave a little while ago. At one point, James May said, "Well, for me, if it's a Lamborghini, it's got to be in red." And Jeremy Clarkson said, "Well, you know me, James, I've always hated the black break." Right there. 3 minutes later, you come back to find Jeremy Clarkson saying, "Women and gays." Now, that is why I always acknowledge the breaks. And then I guess every show has its little habits, doesn't it? You know, it's like on Top Gear, when the three of them enter competitions, it's always Jeremy that wins the race. Ist Person of the Year award. Now, one thing I've noticed, after doing a show like this for 5 years, welcome back, incidentally, is that people start treading a little carefully around me, especially online. I guess some people think of Modern Life is Goodish as a show where I highlight some of the silly things people do online, and so to some extent that can put people on edge. Like this person, for example, who tweeted, "I live in fear of one of my tweets appearing on Dave Gorman's Modern Life is Rubbish." Well, you don't need to worry about that, because it won't appear on Modern Life is Rubbish because there's no such show, is there? Here's another one. At Dave Gorman. Modern life is not goodish. It's shit. And getting worse daily. It's a bit bleak, isn't it? And look Look, I know that life doesn't treat everyone well and that times are tough for a lot of people, but if you're telling me that, using your handheld electronic device that can instantly access all of the information in the world but can also be used to order a pizza, maybe you have to concede that at least some of modern life is good-ish, at least. His tweet continues, too many snowflakes. Oh, he's one of the snowflake people. Too many snowflakes telling us what we can and can't do or say. You can't say that. Oh, no, you can, actually, you can. If you want. I mean, I'm not sure it's true, but I can't stop you saying it. I don't know what this person's background is. I don't know what it is they think they can't say anymore. But I don't think there's anything you can't say anymore. I think there are consequences for saying things. I think it's true that people are more easily moved to outrage these days, that people are more vocal about being upset, and I know that might feel exhausting at times, but in a way, isn't that a sign that things are getting better, not worse? Anyway, this chap did send another tweet 10 minutes later, which might cast a bit more light on his particular beef. Nobody can take a joke anymore. No banter. The old days were better. And I should know. I was a pharmacist. The unique insight of an ex-pharmacist. Of course. I think this is about people struggling to keep up with the shift in our cultural standards. And the easiest way of demonstrating quite how far things have changed is to watch one of those nostalgia TV shows, like, say, you know, the sort of thing, We Remember the 70s and so on. But just to see what the celebs of today have to say about the media of then. For my money, Paul Ross is the king of that particular show. He's got such a facility for language. This is a clip of him talking about a 1970s perfume ad. He is about to use a phrase that I've never heard before, that you have never heard before, and yet we're all going to know exactly what he means.
Are you saying, basically, that if you give her a bottle of perfume, you're going to get your hat blown?
How beautiful is that? If you give her a bottle of perfume, you're going to get your hat blown. Absolutely. The message in that ad... The message in the ad he's talking about is actually worse than that. This is the ad he was talking about, OK? It's for a perfume called...
La Vie Moderne, by Goodish.
And this is the message of the ad.
When a girl knows what she wants, La Vie Moderne, Goodish.
Take in the details here. When a girl knows what she wants.
When a girl knows what a man wants, La Vie Moderne, Goodish.
When a girl knows what a man wants, presumably to get his end away. And then finally...
Let your man know that what he wants isn't free.
And I think your reaction to that ad rather proves my earlier point about a shift in moral attitudes over time. I don't think that's as simple as buy her a bottle of perfume and get your hat blown. I think that's saying, you know you're going to put out, but if you're wearing this perfume, you'll know you're a classy bird, so we'll buy you dinner first. That is a terrible message to send to young women and an even worse one to send to young men. That ad wouldn't go out today. Of course it wouldn't. As the master of Reminiscence TV puts it.
How on earth can that work? How could that get by any advertising standards agency?
Exactly, Paul. Now, obviously, I don't think all change is good. I don't think pursuing change for the sake of change is necessarily wise, and I'm not alone in that belief. The best argument I've seen against change for the sake of change came, as you'd probably expect, in an episode of Thomas the Tank Engine. This is from Thomas and Friends, and we join the action as Edward has a question for the Fat Controller. What's happening?
I've splashed out on a new public address system.
But Edward has another question.
Oh? What was wrong with the old one?
Was it broken? Was there a reason for replacing it?
Oh, sorry. Oh, nothing wrong with it, Edward. But this new one is much more modern.
You see, the Fat Controller represents the kind of who camps overnight outside the Apple store trying to get a brand new iPhone on the day of release, doesn't he? He's enthralled to modernity for modernity's sake. And you know enough about how children's TV works to know that he's going to learn the error of his ways. He's going to learn that he was a fool to scrap a perfectly good working PA system for no reason whatsoever. At which point, I think it's also then legitimate to ask, well, why have you replaced the old, non-computer-generated, stop-motion, real-life, model-train Thomas the Tank Engine with this computer-generated version? What was wrong with the old one? This is controversial, I know, but I think that the update is an improvement. I mean, look, here's a clip from each version, and in both of these, the trains are meant to be going like the clappers. I don't know about you, but I think the modern version down here is much more dynamic and exciting for a child to watch, isn't it? I mean, that train up top is just sort of trundling along, isn't it? And yet in the story, it's meant to be herring along at pace. If you don't believe me, we can run the tape on.
Everyone was excited. The Fat Controller leaned out of the window to wave at Edward and Henry. But the train was going so fast that his hat blew off into a field where it rotated for two.
I'm sorry, I apologise, gentlemen. That is another reason. It's another reason why the old one is worse. It's filth. Filth. The Fat Controller getting his hat blown on children's telly. I'm sorry. Shouldn't have been allowed. I'm sorry. But it's not just the style of animation that has changed. I think the moral message of the show has changed as well. The old show was really authoritarian. Look, this is a clip from the old show. In this episode, Henry has decided that he doesn't want to go out in the rain and get his paint wet, and so he's sheltering in a tunnel. And they try everything to push and pull him out of the tunnel, but he won't budge. And so eventually, the Fat Controller decides to punish him.
We shall take away your rails, he said, and leave you here for always and always and always.
And they don't just take the rails away. Oh, no.
They took up the old rails and built a wall in front of him so that Henry couldn't get out of the tunnel anymore.
They brick him into the tunnel forever. And you should have seen the crowd on the other side of this camera as that was happening. Oh, my
Build
life.
that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall.
Amazing.
Build that
Amazing.
wall. Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall.
Yeah. It seems America has got its own Fat Controller as well. Who would have thought it? So he's bricked in forever. In this version of the show, the Fat Controller is virtually a fascist. Still, you know what they say about fascists, at least they make the trains run on time. Just listen to Ringo Starr's last words in this episode.
He wondered if he would ever be allowed to pull trains again. But I think he deserved his punishment. Don't you?
2, 3, 4. This is outrageous. In the modern version, the Fat Controller is still in charge, but he's much less severe. I don't even need to show you a clip to prove that point. A single still image does the job perfectly. So to me, the changes they've made seem to be positive. But of course, there'll always be reactionary people out there who think it's got worse. I'd expect that. What I didn't expect, amongst the various complaints about the new look Thomas, was to see the British National Party accusing it of white genocide. This is the BNP linking to a story from the Daily Mail, which is a bit like being offered a satsuma by an orange. Not that there is anything offensive about the Mail story. They're just putting the facts out there. This isn't the first time the Mail have written about this, as you can see. But of course, they're not the only people to have picked up on it, and there's been much focus on the ethnically diverse, multicultural rebrand. One of the characters they mention in the headline is Ashima. And I've seen the episode with Ashima in it, and it's brilliant. It's an hour-long musical in which Thomas gets to duet with Ashima.
Why do I have to be me? Is this what I'm really meant to be?
That is beautiful. That is Thomas regretting that he's not bigger and stronger and more impressive, and Ashima telling him that it's OK to just be who you are. Now, according to The Telegraph, the producer insists this has not been done out of political correctness, and you know what? I believe him. If I was an animator, I would rather animate a Bollywood duet with a healthy message than an episode about bricking a train into a tunnel forever. But the producer acknowledges there are clearly some upset people. And, oh, of course there are. And you can believe me, ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you the bottom half of the internet has been teeming with them. I've read all of these stories on the topic and many more. I've taken my favourite comments from beneath those stories and turned them into something that I like to call a found poem that I would like to perform for you now. My childhood is ruined. England has simply given up. I'm not being racist, but Thomas the Tank is British. It's called British Rail for a reason. And And if it's British Rail, it should star British engines. It isn't British Rail. TTTE is set on the fictional island of Sodor. They are not British Rail rolling stock. They belong to the Sodor and Mainland Railway, which later became the North Western Railway. All I know is that when I was a child, trains did not have foreign accents. Well, when I was a child, trains didn't talk. Once again, this is a case of political correctness going all PC on us. I bet it won't be long before we have a transgender train. In the real world, no train can have any gender. All trains are gender neutral. As men do not have outward signs of their gender on display, i.e. breasts, I think it is natural to assume gender neutral equates to male, but not going on about it. A train cannot be trans. End of. What about the Trans-Siberian Express? Trains do not have any nationality either. I think you'll find that the backbone of today's freight trains are the North American and Spanish-built Class 66s and 67s, while Virgin's Pendolinos are largely Italian-sourced. Of course, most of these foreign locomotives couldn't run on the island of Sodor anyway because of the gauge. Then what about coupling? Looks like 2 of them have Buckeye-style couplers rather than screw links. And are they air-braked or vacuum-braked? I say bring back Ivor the engine. Kachushka, kachushka. Wrong noise, mate. Pshtikoff, pshtikoff. I saw the actual Flying Scotsman once. It was in Australia. Really? How did it get there? Dunno. Life is Goodish, where, with a bit of an end-of-term vibe, I've been answering some of your... But... It's not working, mate. It's literally just there. It's just there, isn't it? With a bit of an end-of-term vibe, I've been answering some of your behind-the-scenes questions. One thing I've often been asked over the years is how are we able to get permission to use so much stuff that was made by other people? How are we allowed to use so many clips and things from elsewhere? Well, sometimes we have to pay to use something, but often we use what is called fair dealing. In particular, we lean quite heavily on criticism and review. Now, we don't need to drill down into the detail too much here, but as an example, in order to show you that picture of Kate Middleton earlier, we had to pay a picture agency around 180 quid. But if I'm talking about Thomas the Tank Engine, and I'm talking about the merits of the old animation versus the new, or discussing the way the moral messages have changed, then I can use a small number of clips to illustrate my point. Well, that counts as criticism and review, so that is free. This isn't something unique to this show. A lot of TV shows do similar, like that show we were talking about earlier, We Remember the 70s. In a way, it's the entire point of these shows. They're able to show you, for example, this 1970s Daily Mirror advert.
Only in the Mirror this week. And how about this? Dress to kill, then strip for action.
Because Paul Ross saying...
Bosom Soul Papers.
...counts as criticism and review. If they didn't have Paul Ross saying...
Bosom Soul Papers.
...they wouldn't be able to show that ad for free. There is no edge here. I am genuinely admiring of Paul Ross. He is the perfect broadcaster for this sort of television. I will show you why he is quite so good at this sort of thing.
Platform shoes, greased back hair, Roxy music jacket. I was London's answer to Brian Ferry.
You see? He talks in sound bites. That's exactly what you need on a clip show. Look at this.
Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Biddy, biddy, biddy.
You can't be more concise than that, can you? Here he is talking about that perfume ad that we saw earlier, OK?
La Vie Moderne, which was meant to be a bit more expensive. The bottle was chunkier. And it even said something lovely, which is like, you know, men have to pay for it.
And this is another of his skills. He doesn't just give you a lovely summary of the ad, he goes on to root his memory of it in personal anecdote.
I remember my Auntie Iris had some of this, and my dad was in the house when she put it on, and he said to her, no word of a lie, I think your cat's done something, Iris.
This is perfect, isn't it? Although, there is one thing that strikes me as odd about his recollection of this perfume. Because I know for a cast iron fact that Paul Ross's Auntie Iris did not wear that perfume. I know she didn't, because there wasn't a perfume called La Vie Moderne. We made it up. This is not a real ad from the 70s.
La Vie Moderne. Godois.
La Vie Moderne, the clues are there, aren't they? Look at the name of it, for crying out loud. Schoolboy French, isn't it? Modern life. Godois, a not very good anagram for Goodish. The clues were there, weren't they? All along. Clues were there. Now, all of a sudden, Paul Ross's recollection of that ad feels rather different, doesn't it?
I remember my Auntie Iris had some of this.
No, she didn't.
And my dad was in the house when she put it on.
No, he wasn't.
And he said to her, no word of a lie.
Every word a lie. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a white lie, isn't it? I'm not calling him out for that. He's just doing his job and remembering the thing he's just looked at. But I guess this raises another question. Right now, you're probably wondering, how on earth have you managed to get a fake advert onto a show like We Remember the 70s? Well, I wish I could tell you that that's what we'd done. But I can't. Because We Remember the 70s isn't a real show either. We made that up as well. Paul Ross doesn't know, by the way. Yet. Actually, he probably does by about now, I would think. Because we made it properly. We rented a hotel room, we threw up a big green sheet, and we hired a camera crew, and we hired the most important ingredient of all for this kind of show. We hired ourselves a Paul Ross to remember some stuff for us. And most of the things we showed him were real, but the perfume ad wasn't. Now, of course, this raises a whole new question, doesn't it? Why? Why did we film a fake ad and put it in a fake TV show? Well, it certainly wasn't done as part of a sting operation to catch Paul Ross, Pat Sharp and Christopher Biggins in a lie. Oh, sorry, I haven't mentioned those two yet, have I? Yeah, we got them in as well. We got the dream team. The Reminiscence Dream Team. Paul Ross, Pat Sharp and Christopher Biggins. And I will repeat, the idea wasn't some pious thing about trapping them in a lie. I mean, don't get me wrong, these two, they both remembered the perfume well. Absolutely. Here's Biggins.
Well, La Vie Moderne was, you know, perfect for the woman because it was quite sickly, rather sweet, and as women are. Not sickly,
Now, if any of you are sensing some slightly old-school sexism in Biggins there, I want to defend him. Times were different back then. The whole moral framework of society has changed since then. I mean, this was what? This was weeks ago. This was... Here is Mr. Funhouse himself, Pat Sharp.
Back in the 70s, La Vie Moderne was very modern because not only did my mum wear that, I'm sure she did. Hold on. Yep, she did.
Watching these back, they're all so confident, I started worrying that maybe our fake perfume was an exact replica for an actual 1970s perfume. Right? Maybe there was a perfume called La Vie Moderne. Maybe Pat Sharp's mum did wear it. Maybe his mum is called Iris and she's also Paul Ross's auntie, for all I know. Maybe Biggins used to hang out with her and that's how he knows the smell, but no, I know it's fake, right? In fact, I'll show you. This is Pat Sharp a few moments before he told us that his mum used to wear it, OK?
I don't remember the perfume, but I'll have a go at the ad for you.
Right. So. He doesn't remember the perfume, but he'll have a go at the ad for us. I'm about to reveal a trade secret to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm about to show you one of the techniques that TV producers use to persuade someone to fib. You are going to hear our producer James in the background on this clip. He wasn't on a microphone, so just to make sure we can all take in his words, I've added some subtitles to it. You should get it all in combination.
Yeah. So, yeah, do you remember it?
I don't remember that ad, no, all the perfume.
Remembering it?
That's the technique. You ask them to remember it, and...
Yeah, I'd love to remember that.
Pat would love to remember that. I want to make myself entirely clear here. We didn't book these three in order to call them liars. We booked them because we think they are genuinely the best at this sort of thing. Or at least, certainly the best at this sort of thing that we could afford. I mean, obviously, one of them's got a brother who's also quite good at this sort of stuff, but he's a little out of our price range, huh? Jonathan Biggins, what a guy. Oh. More importantly, these aren't lies. We're the liars, not them. So why did we do it? Well, we did it for the same reason that Edmund Hillary climbed Everest. Because it was there. We did it because we could. We did it for a laugh. Basically, I wanted to use Thomas the Tank Engine to discuss how attitudes had changed. And using one of those nostalgia TV shows seemed like a good way of illustrating quite how much things have changed. But when we started trying to get the rights to show one of them, they were all turning out to be really quite expensive. We were in a team meeting in the office and someone said, "Bloody hell, at that price it'd be cheaper to make our own." Now, obviously, they didn't really mean it, but what they hadn't reckoned on was I was there. And the minute I'd heard it, I bloody meant it. And once you've started making your own nostalgia TV show, you're only one short hop, skip and a jump from making your own nostalgically offensive advert to go in it, too. And basically, we just got a bit carried away. One thing led to another, you know. Sometimes life just becomes a succession of, well, if we're doing this, we might as well do that. And if we're doing that, we might as well do this. And if we're filming people on a green screen, we might as well put something else behind them as well.
Are you saying, basically, that if you give her a bottle of perfume, you're going to get your hat blown?
With all sincerity, I say to Paul, Pat and Christopher that none of this was done out of disrespect. We genuinely hired you because we wanted people who were good at this. And because we thought it would make us happy. And it did. And at the end of the day, isn't spreading a little bit of happiness around what it's all about? I think you'll find it is. If you're happy and you know it and you're happy to disclose it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you're happy to disclose it, clap your hands. Yeah, we're doing it. But if you're happy and you don't know it... Nice work. Or you're unhappy and you do... Well, then the clauses in this song simply don't apply to you. But if you're happy, and you know it, and you're happy to disclose it, well then, and only then, thanks for watching. Please clap your hands.